Of course, as you heard a little earlier, parliamentarians have been visiting Eskom's headquarters at Megawatt Park today. At the coalface, as it were, of our power problems. Let's get an understanding of exactly what those parliamentarians are discovering. This, of course, as Eskom plunges us back into stages 4 and 5 of load shedding amid ongoing plant breakdowns. Well, I'm joined now by Zolani Mkiva, the chairperson of the Select Committee on Public Enterprises and Communication. Mr. Mkiva, thank you so much for joining us. So I understand that today you did speak to a number of the unions, and one of the big messages coming from the NUM, the Mine Workers Union, they're saying that the workers at the coalface in these power stations are not being spoken to, they're not being communicated with properly. Tell me a little bit more about the engagement that you had with the unions today.
No, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you as well as the viewers of eNCA. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, indeed. Today we undertook an oversight visit to Eskom Megawatt in order to interact with stakeholders at Eskom, and the first day was mainly focused on the working class as led by their respective unions. We met with the leadership of the NUM, NUMSA, as well as Solidarity. The workers are raising quite a number of broad issues which affect them in the current predicament that is facing Eskom as well as the country. Indeed, I can confirm that the workers have expressed their concern in a working relationship that is not so good between themselves as well as management and the executive. They have raised that quite sharply because they are of the view that they are views which flow from the issues that they pick up at the shop floor are not being taken into consideration in tackling the current impasse which is causing the blackouts as well as the load shedding. And the workers feel that their views are not being taken into account, and yet those are quite very important items that relate to operational matters on the ground, and they are also of the view that part of the problem why there is no turnaround in the current predicament, it's a simple matter of the management that does not work, in a coherent manner together with them. And this is exacerbating the problem instead of ensuring that they put all their hands together on the deck and there's consideration of the things that they say, and that would actually work towards resolving partly the problem that is there.
I mean, communication is absolutely critical in trying to solve a problem effectively. Did you get a clear understanding or some clear examples of where workers on the ground at a power plant have been ignored in raising a valid issue? Because it's the kind of thing that you can only really unpick when you look at specific examples.
Well, look, our work is still continuing. Tomorrow we'll meet with the management as well as the board members. So today we only had one side of the issue. But the simple example is that there's supposed to be strategic sessions that happen wherein they make representation and actually present their proposals, which can help towards resolving some of these problems. They say they are simply ignored when it comes to those matters. So it shows that there is a seeming tension in that respect, and there's quite a broad number of things. They went to detail in terms of certain specification that instead of a power station being used, it is the management decides to shut it down in order to poach from one power station that is put on reserve, and then they use it as a scrap in order to service the other power station. They are of the view that such matters should not be happening because those power stations could be adding value to the national grid and not reduce the kilowatts. Instead, they would help to increase and ensure that we turn around the situation. Well, I cannot go into detail in giving you some of those examples because we ought to collaborate those with what we'll hear from the management. Our role is first to hear to all the stakeholders so that then we can then apply our minds and then come up with the proposals. But clearly, they are also citing the issues of sabotage, which they say some of those, they flow from contractors that are employed. And those sabotage sometimes are meant to ensure that the contract companies that are servicing Eskom remain in the site so that they can continue to be on the payroll of Eskom. Those are matters that still needs to be collaborated, and they need to be investigated. And they have helped us insofar as ensuring that when we meet with the board and the executive tomorrow, we are quite empowered by what they have put to us, so that it can help us to enrich our engagement with the management and the leadership of Eskom.
So we know as well that Andre de Ruyter and the senior management team presented to Parliament just a few days ago. How different is it to actually go to the problem, go to where the big decisions are being made? I mean, how is this more useful to you than hearing presentations within the parliamentary setting? Just explain to me what you've learned that's quite different today.
No, of course, it was quite an eye-opener to hear from the people who interface with the situation on a daily basis at an operational level on how this thing gets done. So there's a huge difference. This is more than just an academic exercise. You feel a sense of having an organic interaction when you hear from the engineers, who are some, are part of the union, telling us in detail on how the tripping is happening and why it is happening, on how one power station is put on cold reserve and yet it ought not to be there in their own opinion. So it is quite a very good exercise. It begins to empower even ourselves, so that when we engage with something that we have actually felt and touched, in reality. So this is the sense that it gives us, and therefore we have got exactly the outcome that we expected on day one. And we are looking forward to hearing from the management tomorrow.
Talk to me about the role you see Parliament playing here. I mean, yesterday we saw the DA marching on the ANC headquarters saying this is a political problem. We know that certain members within the ANC, in fact, many people, even the energy minister, saying that actually this is a management problem at Eskom. However, we cannot deny the long history of bad decisions around maintenance. So it strikes me that there are many facets to this problem. You're highlighting potential lack of communication between management and what's happening on the ground as another one. So you're gathering a lot of interesting information. What are you going to do with it? And how will you help be part of the solution? Because there's so many people sort of scratching their heads going, right, how do we fix this massive, massive convoluted problem? What do you see as your role as parliamentarians?
Well, it goes without saying that there's a multiplicity of challenges that have brought Eskom to where it is today. And of course, the unions are even making allegations that this is a man-made problem. It's done deliberately in order to run down Eskom. We don't take such allegations lightly, and we'll deal with that. And if it needs be, we'll go to the extent of setting up an investigation, an inquiry under the stewardship of Parliament to ensure that we get to the bottom of exactly what is happening there. Yes, it is quite a very, very difficult thing. But for us, we think that we should all put our hands in the deck. Our role is to ensure that we have a clear understanding of what is happening there. But it is not only Parliament that is going to be making a contribution in turning Eskom around. We all stakeholders must put their hands on the deck. This has become a national problem, and therefore all of us, we must put the national interest first, because electricity is a lifeline to the economy. Energy is a bloodline to an efficient running economy. And we have this problem that we have, and it is creating the tension in the population, and therefore we have to ensure that as leadership we make an intervention, and we should all hold hands together and leave all our petty differences aside and look at the common problem in front of us and try to resolve it. So we are coming in order to provide leadership and to ensure that we communicate our own views as to how we should go about in doing that. And in some instances, and ensure that where there is a gap in this communication, we close it, even amongst the management as well as the workers themselves. We even went to the extent of saying that the unions themselves, it is important that they also put their differences aside and ensure that they do everything that they can to make a contribution in saving Eskom, in ensuring that Eskom is turned around. It must go back to its glory days of working optimally and provide that important service to the nation by keeping the lights on. You know, they're making a very strong point, the workers. They say it is the workers at an operational level that press the buttons to keep the lights on, that actually do the work in all the service stations. It is not management. So if they are not working in cahoots, if they're not working in unison with management, then it's going to be a problem. And they also do acknowledge that there could be amongst themselves some of the workers who are part of the corrupt tendencies which have been highlighted. But they say, I think there's a need for focus to prioritize the work that is expected to be done in order to ensure that Eskom is turned around. You mustn't start with the third item instead of starting with the first thing that needs to be tackled. I think it has been a very good day, and that was actually empowering on us, and it has begun to open up many things that we were not aware of.
Yeah, you make such a good point. When faced with a myriad of problems, you need to be able to prioritize tackling the most important one. And good luck tomorrow as you meet with the board and get their perspective. And let's hope you're able to provide that guidance and leadership so that we can get to quicker solutions to the ongoing blackouts. That, of course, is Zolani Mkiva, chairperson of the Select Committee on Public Enterprises and Communication. Of course, they've been visiting Eskom headquarters today. Still ahead.